You ever just question your life decisions? I'm talking to you now, yeah.
No.
All right, never mind. Straight into the point. No. Thinking about it. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm 29. I've been doing comedy for too long. 15 years almost. I've only been good for like half of this set. You know? But no one tells you to stop. Careers are the only addiction that might work. So people keep being addicted to what you're doing, keep going. And you know what happens when people don't tell you to stop? You rent conference rooms in Rome. That's what happens.
Well, welcome to the Grounded Presence Podcast, a place for exploring authentic identity, deep community, and an ever-evolving spiritual journey. I'm your host, Daniel Powell, and before I get things started here, I just want to let all of you know that the podcast is now available on Spotify. I've gotten a few requests for that, so if that is how you digest your podcast media, you can now download it there. So this week, I'm continuing the series that I've titled The Work That Is Yours. And this is where I've recorded a few interviews with individuals who are doing interesting and meaningful work in the world, and who are taking very unique paths to get to the next page of what they feel like their callings are. And this week, I'm talking to a guy by the name of Mike Lemme. He's a stand-up comedian in New York, and he's just a great guy, and you're going to love him. We have a blast having this conversation, and over the past 15 years, he's been a stand-up comedian, and he's been on a journey. And the last few years of this journey have been seasons of deeper introspection, and he's just taken really big strides in his own personal growth. Now, Mike's a pretty humble guy throughout this whole interview, but I think he's doing some amazing stuff on stage. And a lot of comedians that I've heard tend to look at life's experiences and stand a bit emotionally removed and poke fun at them. But Mike has this unique way of inviting you into his experiences and introspection. And in a way that, while speaking from my own engagement with his work, in a way that helps you view yourself differently and maybe even with a little more grace. And as you'll hear in the interview, this isn't really his overt purpose or anything, kind of a artist versus observer thing going on here. And like I said, he's pretty humble, and he says he's just trying to be more present to life in general, and that includes being more present when he's on stage telling jokes. But I say when somebody offers their presence to you specifically or to a room of people, that has a huge ripple effect in all of our everyday lives. And that is exactly what I experienced through Mike's comedy, which I should mention is available on YouTube for you to engage with as well. And if you would, listen to this whole interview. At the beginning, we kind of fumble around getting onto the same wavelength. But there's a moment that this whole interview kind of builds towards that you're not going to want to miss when he starts talking about this one-man show that he's writing. And two more quick things here, and we will get off and running. So one, just wanted to warn any of you with younger ears listening on that there is some brief, strong language in this episode. And two, this conversation was originally recorded earlier this year in January. So if any of the dates and timelines that Mike mentions make you scratch your head a little bit, that's why. So I've rambled on for a little bit here, and with that, let's just get right on into it. What do you say? Here is me and Mike Lemme. Hey, it's great to be talking to you. I'm really glad this worked out.
Hey, thanks for having me on your show, man. I appreciate it.
Shoot, more so I'm just excited that I got exposed to your work because it's some really cool stuff.
Thanks, man.
So, yeah, I mean, you're a comedian. You're living out there in New York City, and you recently did a little tour to London, Paris, Rome, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Just got back a couple weeks ago. It was amazing.
Okay,
Loved
so
it.
that's super recent then. Awesome.
Yeah. I got back right before Christmas, and I'm looking to go back at looking for the next tour now. I'm just trying to book the next run.
Cool.
Ready to go back out there.
Awesome. Now, if you were trying to impress somebody, how would you phrase that? Could you say that you did a tour to 3 cities that was standing room only and 2?
Yeah. I could totally do that.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll get to that a little bit later, but we'll just kind of leave that as a pregnant pause right now. All right.
That sounds good. Yeah.
So tell me about your brand of comedy. It's just so different than anything that I myself have experienced. And how would you describe it?
I would describe my comedy as just like personal storytelling with punchlines, I guess. I just take something that really happened in my life, and then I find a way to make it funny. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and then sometimes when it doesn't work, that makes it even funnier. When you kind of call yourself out on a joke not working, and then you create this like unique moment with the audience that they're experiencing and you're experiencing. So it's personal storytelling. You try to find a punchline. If you can't, you just find a way to make them laugh somehow.
No, I guess that's kind of the fun part of not having this big special. Like a lot of the large names do, is sometimes the jokes work really poorly, and then you got to kind of.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's one of the great things about no one really knowing who you are is like there's no expectations really. You can kind of do whatever you want, and then the people that really like you get their email address, and then like the next time you're in their town, they come back and see you again, and it's kind of just like starting a business. You just find the people that like you at first, then hopefully they tell a friend, and then you see what happens. But yeah, not being kind of unknown gives you a chance to take more chances and more risk, and then have some more fun with it, I guess. I don't know.
Cool. Well, what I found really, really attractive about your style of comedy, now you had called it raw and honest comedy in a conversation we had before this. So I definitely want to get to that. But what I found so attractive about it was just this, you're showing your journey and kind of your personal growth through it, and you're making it funny. For sure. Let's talk about that journey a little bit and just tell me more about yourself.
Well, I grew up in a small town in Massachusetts. And I got a very dysfunctional family, and I kind of like dealt with my family's issues by talking about them on stage for years and years and years, and just trying to find ways to make some of the least funny moments of my life funny. And then at a certain point, like a few years ago, I just got sick of talking about that material on stage. I felt like I wasn't growing as a person or growing as a comedian. So I realized that you don't want to be like a one-trick pony. You want to have like other things to talk about. You don't want to be the one guy on stage talking about like his family issues when you're almost 30 years old. You gotta branch out. So kind of like not wanting to talk about the same things on stage all the time really helped my personal life too, because I try to focus more on becoming like a more well-rounded person. I guess I kind of just have more things to talk about on stage really. So the personal life helped the professional life helped the personal life, and just trying to find a balance and keep evolving.
So it sounds like your craft's becoming a bit more organic rather than scripted.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
You can tell I have so much more fun when I'm on stage, just in the moment and being present, as opposed to trying to like remember my jokes I had prepared. You go in there with a set list, like you have the jokes in your mind that you want to tell. You've been working on them for weeks, months, years. But sometimes the best moments in stand-up are when you're just there and present in the room and you say something in the moment. Usually anything you say in the moment is going to get a bigger laugh than anything I prepared. So the audience likes knowing that you're there with them in the room and not reading off a script.
You're giving me a new insight to comedy here. I've never thought about that,
You're going behind the scenes, man.
Because if you're not present to the moment, it's like the moment's what life is all about. So if you don't really harness that in the room, it's dead, because everybody smells that, And
and it can be something simple, like if someone drops a glass in the room and you don't mention it, that people are just like, how did he not hear that a glass falling? Or like, how is he not it just becomes uncomfortable. You gotta acknowledge something.
There's like that social insulation between you and the crowd. So if you don't,
Yep.
yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and like, because I'm like a lot of people, their favorite comedians are ones that they feel like they know personally, and that's because of like how relaxed and comfortable they are on stage. Like a Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle, like most of his stories are made up. Like if you listen to his stand up, like he's just making things up. Like all of his stories, I'm sure like most of them didn't really happen to him, but like he's so comfortable, he's so relaxed on stage that you're like, did that actually happen to him? Like he's so chill and comfortable that like it might have happened. Like his stories are so outlandish, but like he delivers them in such a simple and like unique and hilarious way that like, it might have actually happened to him. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's kind of that thing of it's probably based in truth somewhere. Like somewhere in your psyche, there's a tidbit there, but
he like all the exaggerations, like he delivers them so well that like it all could be true. Who knows? Yeah,
it's kind of that how big was the fish you caught type of story.
Yeah. But it's just him. Like he's built a relationship with his audience over all these years that he's just so comfortable and relaxed. I love it. So present. Yeah, my favorite comedians are the ones that are like, you can't tell if they're saying something for the first time or not. Like they're especially guys that are like comedians that are that big, like they're doing stand up every single night, and like they could be saying something for years, but they make it seem like they're saying it for the first time, which is like a huge magic trick.
So I just want to go more into what this is that I feel like you're doing so differently. What I've been exposed to through your journey, you're kind of going through this therapeutic process where you're learning to be more present in life, and that's affecting your stage presence. I feel like when comedians typically get healthy, we could both agree that most comedians are pretty unhealthy. Does that sound fair?
I mean, I guess.
Or is that just a persona? I suppose you got to be healthy in some respect to like have your shit together enough.
Yeah, you gotta. There's
actually go on a tour, and if you're gonna be successful,
right. But you don't have to be miserable to be a great comedian. That's the thing. Like when I was younger, especially like some of my favorite comedians they're just happy. Like Chris Rock just seems like a happy guy. Dave Chappelle seems like a happy guy. P.D. Abreu, he's a really funny comedian in New York City. I've known him for like 6 years, and I've never seen him be in a bad mood. So like, I think the whole comedians need to be like unstable to be great. It's like I think that might be like an older stereotype, I guess. That like some comedians are breaking, some comedians aren't helping that stereotype. Like sometimes I feel like I'm not helping that stereotype. Like sometimes, I feel like. Like talking about my problems makes me funnier, but like there's a lot of comedians out there that are just like in a good mood, and like it makes their stand-up even more entertaining because when they're happy, the audience automatically becomes happy. Like if you go up there and you're just smiling and laughing, having a good time, even if the jokes aren't there yet, the audience is just in a good mood because you're in a good mood. So it's just the audience is going to match how you feel,
That makes a lot of sense. I really like this conversation because it shifted my perspective a bit. It's kind of like I have all these thoughts and ideas. So let me throw something at you. This is what I wrote down. Yeah. We'll see what you think about it. But I feel like I'm kind of fumbling through my words here because I'm trying to figure out how to put my words on what I feel makes your comedy different, right? Than a lot of the stuff I've been exposed to. And here's what it is. I feel like most comedians tend to exploit like their personal experiences and circumstances, whereas your comedy, your scripted stuff, it's done in a way that's more integrated. Like you're integrating your experiences into the comedy, rather than kind of like exploiting them. Like it just feels a bit more personal, a bit more. Like that connection is the important part. Are you following me here? Am I getting kind of abstract
for sure. Like,
and
I
weird?
want to, because that's the thing is I want to get everyone involved. I don't want to be up there and you don't want to be up there and just complaining. You want to find a way to make it relatable to everyone. So I'll take my problems and realize that like my problems aren't that unique. Like a lot of people have gone through similar things that I've gone through. So if I go up there and talk about this is what's going on with me, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to make anyone feel bad, especially like people I'm talking about on stage. I don't want them to feel bad. I don't want them to think I'm exploiting them by like talking about our issues on stage. I'm just finding a way to like make a connection. Stand-up's all about like building a connection with your audience, and you need to do that by being relatable. And the way to be relatable is just even if someone in the audience hasn't gone through what you've gone through, if you're just like social and nice on stage for the first like few seconds or few minutes you're up there, and you build a relationship with the audience, they're gonna go on that journey with you. So you don't want to ignore anybody in the audience, And that's the thing about stand-ups is like you could be on stage doing great, but if you see one person in the audience not having fun, you want to find a way to make sure they have fun. So you don't want anyone to be alienated. You want to feel like everyone's including in what you're talking about, and if they're not, you try to find a way to make that one person who's not smiling. You want how can I make this relatable to them? How can I get them to laugh at this? So stand-up is all about like being inclusive, I think.
Sounds like it's more about being a facilitator rather than being a funny guy,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah, because you don't
making the room
yeah.
happen instead of
you want it
telling
to
the jokes.
want it to go well. Like you don't want people not to laugh because that gets super uncomfortable. And there's just a fine line between like a great performance and things just not going well at all. Like it can turn at any moment. So it's like a high wire act. You're just trying to get to the other side and make sure it goes well throughout.
Okay, so I feel like I've kind of been pushing for this thing, being like, Mike, you're doing stuff so differently. Tell me about it. And you're just kind of like,
I agree.
I'm just trying to get healthy. And I'm like, okay, but you're doing stuff differently. Like, why? Anyway, so I'm going to beat that horse one more time.
Yeah,
and I'm going to try to come at it from one more different angle.
Yeah.
So here's what I feel like is different from your little comedy special that I watched and others. I feel like coming away from yours, I came into a slightly different relationship with myself.
Wow.
Whereas coming away from others, it's kind of like they said some funny stuff. Humans are pretty stupid, But, coming away from your work, I was just like, man, humans are pretty cool. And we're like crazy, complex beings. Like, I need to think about myself some more.
Thank you. That's huge. That's a huge compliment. Thank you.
So, yeah. That's what I'll say. Do you have anything else to say to that? Like, is that your aim, or is that just like a happy byproduct?
So lately I've been doing these shows in conference rooms I rent. Like I went to London, Paris, and Rome, and I rented out conference rooms to do comedy shows in. Like sitting around a conference room table with like 6 to 8 people that found out about me on the internet, and they just thought it was weird and interesting. They came to see the show, and I'm not doing these weird things. Like I rented out a theater for 15 nights a couple years ago. That it was like a 50-seat theater, and I did like a one-man show all through my credit cards and just like going in a lot of credit card debt. And like I'm not doing these things to be to stand out, I guess. I'm just doing it because I'm not finding success in the traditional ways of doing stand-up comedy. So I love comedy so much, but like I'm not getting booked at a lot of comedy clubs. I'm not on Netflix or Comedy Central or anything like that. So it's like, how do you build an audience when the outlets that you usually take to build that, to find that audience, are not working out? So I guess by finding these unique ways of performing, I am standing out, I guess, which is going to help my career. But that wasn't the intention at first. The intention was just like, I have this material. I want to do a show for an hour, but like there's no venues that'll book like an unknown comedian to do an hour show. So how can I take this into my own hands and do the show I want to do? And I just thought conference rooms. And I was getting a lot of reservations for the conference room, so I started reaching out to actual venues. And when you have proof of your numbers, like I said, like when I was in London, I'm like, I have 10 people that want to come see me perform in a conference room, but it only holds like 6 people. So now I want to add a second show at your venue. And I did a show at the Albany, which is like a great comedy club. So I think just doing these weird, unique experiments has given me more confidence to try to get back into like the standard route of like trying to make it as a comedian, Like I'm getting more confidence in myself by creating these opportunities for me that are leading towards getting back on that path, I think is a traditional way of making it as a comedian. I think I just rambled on for a while, but I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that's fine. I just want to take this moment to say those were the standing room only.
The standing room only gigs, yeah.
The standing room only things I was mentioning.
I do a
beginning.
joke, yeah. I rented out these conference rooms and I sold them out, man. We're talking over the course of 3 weeks, I entertained like 21 people in 3 different countries. Probably less than 21, but it's just. And now those people are on my mailing list. So next time I go back to London or Paris, I can invite them out to hopefully a real show and not another conference room. But even if it is another conference room, they'll come back and they'll have fun. And I don't know, it's doing something unique and different, but that wasn't the purpose of it. It wasn't trying to be unique and different. I was just trying to find a way to like get my material out to different people.
That's so cool, just to do something in such a new way like that. You know, just to realize what the next step on your journey is, rather than trying to figure out what.
I mean, sometimes. Yeah, because everyone's journey is different. Like in life, you can't do what someone else is doing because that works for them. It might not work for you. And it's just, especially when doing stand-up comedy in New York, as you see a lot of people you started out with, they're becoming more and more successful, and you're just trying to figure out like how can I be doing what they're doing. And like my friend Petey, like we started out doing open mics together, and now he runs like one of the hottest shows in New York City. And he got that way because he's hilarious, but also he's just super friendly and social and outgoing. And like he's one of those guys, you meet him for the first time and you're automatically like one of his best friends. And that's helped him out tremendously with his comedy career. But like what worked for him isn't going to work for me. Like I'm not as social and outgoing as he is, and I'm not as funny as he is. So like he has all the success because he earned it. And now how can I find a way to get to the level he's at, but in a way that works for me, you know?
Renting out those rooms, though, those small conference rooms, that's so brilliant, you know? Because, I mean,
thank you.
that's like my dream, is to have like a small test sample group that I can just like try things out on, you know? Because there, like, you really see what works and you really see what doesn't, because you only got like, 6 to 8 set of eyes, and then you can see like when people start dodging and whatnot.
Right, and you have to build a connection with them. Like you have to like make them comfortable. You can't make it seem like you're reading off the script. Like the best parts of the conference room gigs is when I was just talking to them, like having a conversation with the people in the audience, and I said in the audience in the conference room, like just making sure they were comfortable and having a good time. And then when I went into the jokes, it wasn't as fun. It wasn't as fun because they could tell I was going into the prepared material. It was so much more more fun when I was just riffing and having a good time. And the cool thing about the conference room gigs is like I would do them on Saturdays when the building was closed. So they would just give me like the keys to the building, and I'd have to like stand outside of the building and like welcome people in who were there for the comedy show. It was so weird.
Cool. That's a good interpersonal communications thing right there.
Dude,
like you got to get it started on the right foot.
Yeah. It's 8 o'clock at night. You're going into a conference room and like going into an empty office building in Rome with this random comedian from New York City. We're in the elevator together. I'm just making small talk, making sure they weren't like freaked out. And then you're really building a relationship with those people. And the great thing is like if I do become successful and I do start playing like comedy clubs and then theaters and then stuff like that, like these people can be like, I saw this guy in a conference room, like they're going to be rooting for me so much more because of like how unique that experience was.
And that's just a really cool organic way to grow things, I gotta say.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because too often I think everybody thinks that the path is like I played guitar growing up, and everybody that I played guitar with was just like, dude, let's like play some songs, let's play some shows and get laid, and I was like, guys, I want to write some music first. And everybody else is like, they're like, let's get famous. I'm like, can we like make some music that's meaningful?
Yeah, like you gotta, but also you gotta be kind of good before all that other stuff happens.
Right. But it's too focused on doing the craft as like a way to get to point B.
But people don't want to do the craft. They want to just jump right into being successful. Yeah.
But that's so cool to just start so small. It's like learn how to build that relationship with the small group of people, and then take that and try to figure out how to apply the knowledge you've gained and the models that you've kind of perceived like to a larger and larger room.
Right.
That's cool.
I'm trying to just enjoy the journey too, you know. Like when I was starting out, I started out doing stand up when I was like a teenager, and everyone around me was just like, "Hey, just enjoy the journey, have fun enjoy the process." And like I did it for a long time. For a long time, I was just like, "How do I become more successful? How do I make more money? Blah blah blah." But now I'm just kind of like sitting back and I'm actually enjoying the journey, enjoying the process, and I'm getting better every year. Like every year's been better than the last, and like I'm funnier than I was last year. I'm more successful in my own mind than I was last year, and you know, you just got to keep going.
I feel like there's a big lesson in that. Just, just kind of stop focusing on trying to make the money so much and just focus on being an awesome person.
Man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been in New York City for like 6 years, and it's drained you, man. It just because you can see. Especially, it's good and it's bad because it's good because you can see people doing what you want to be doing, and you want to get to that level professionally. But like what they did is not necessarily gonna work for you. So it's you're constantly surrounded by people that are like doing much better than you and doing much worse than you, and it's kind of like New York is such a hustle that like you want to just make it right now. You want to keep going and work as hard as you possibly can. But sometimes you got to step back and relax and go rent a conference room in Rome and do a comedy show there. You know.
Sometimes you got to.
You got to get out. Sometimes you got to get out of the city, man. That's you need to get more relaxation.
So who are your heroes in comedy?
My heroes in comedy are, the obvious is like Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, Richard Pryor, but Christopher Titus is really big. Christopher Titus, I saw his special.
Who did the Titus TV show like 10, 15 years ago?
He did the TV show. He had a special out called Norman Rockwell Was Bleeding. That was his first special, and it was all about like his parent, like his mom. Committed suicide, and she like killed one of her ex-husbands, and he found a way to make all that hilarious. He made it funny, but he didn't ignore the emotions at the same time. And it was like the first comedy special I saw where it was like super emotional but hilarious at the same time. And he's the guy, he went on to have he's had 11 more comedy specials, and all of them, they all focus on a different subject. And they're still just as emotional and as funny as like when he was talking about his family in that first special. Like he found a way to make that kind of emotional stuff funny, but also not to like pigeonhole himself into just being the guy who talked about having a crazy family on stage. He found a way to like focus that energy on like a different topic, you know. So I'm all about comedians that like evolve and like the evolution and growth. You know, I love that.
That's really cool. I mean, it makes sense a lot with the way you seem to operate.
Yeah, you gotta I'm all about keeping going, evolving. I don't want to talk about the same stuff for too long.
Well, I want to give you a compliment on your work. One, I want to say you seem like a really healthy individual. Maybe a little healthier than me, because I'm over here. I'm like trying to push you. I'm like, okay, so what's the secret purpose behind your work? You know, like, are you trying to like get everybody to a deep level? And now you're just like, I'm just trying to do the thing that like feels most natural to me. And anyway, you know, I think that's really healthy because you're just being you, it sounds like, and whatever the next step is, like you're cool with that. You know, it's like it doesn't sound like you have this big end goal where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be like playing, you know, this huge concert hall and like be driving the Bentley and.
I have. But that's the thing is I have goals like that. But it's just I think Conan O'Brien has a great quote where he's like, you have, I don't know the exact quote, but it's like, you keep what you want to do in the back of your head and just keep chasing towards that, you know, like have that goal in mind, but you don't want to tell too many people because like the more people you tell about the goal, then there's more room for people to like doubt it, you know? So you just have the goal in your mind and keep going towards it. Like I know what I really want to do, like where my career is hopefully going towards, but it's also just like, I appreciate doing the work too, you know, just keeping my head down and like just staying busy and trying to have fun with it. So I totally have those goals in mind, but it's just like I'm just trying to make a living, you know. Is the plan? Just trying to pay the rent.
So tell me a little bit about your degree in communications.
Yeah. So I went to college. I have a bachelor's degree in communication, and it just dawned on me about like a few months ago that I do not use this degree well. You know, like I do public speaking for a living, or trying to make a living off of it, but like I started to realize that like talking on stage does not really count as communicating, especially when you're trying to have relationships off stage, you know, like I I used to get so uncomfortable just having one-on-one conversations, which is kind of like how communication works. Like I used to only enjoy talking into a microphone, and that did not help any of my relationships. Like I've had girlfriends in the past, especially living in New York, is like I used to focus so much on comedy that I never put a lot of effort into my relationship. And I just been talking more about this on stage. Like, I don't really deserve a degree in communication. Like, I got that degree because like none of my professors knew my ex-girlfriends or anything like that. So the past couple of years, I've been trying to just get better at talking off stage, not talking without a microphone, without a stage, without a spotlight, which is kind of the reason why I did some of the conference room shows. Is like, can I communicate to people without a microphone? And since I've given myself that challenge, like I've been in a better relationship, I've been putting more effort into like people, like making sure I'm checking in with people I love and care about. And I think like I graduated from college like 6-7 years ago, and I think I'm finally starting to use my degree. You know.
Cool. You said a couple things in your in that video of you doing the conference room stuff. I guess I should use this opportunity to say there is a YouTube video of
it's
you
called Something New.
Yeah, kind of going through your process of doing this these comedic things in conference rooms, and it's a really cool window into just the whole process.
Thank you. Yeah,
in there you said something that was about your degree in communications. I think you said there was 2 classes that you didn't get. One, networking, a class in networking, and a class in shutting the fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, dude, those are the 2 most important things that no one teaches you in college. Like, I could have had so many better relationships if I just shut up and listen. You know, the key to communication is just listening. You know, like there's some relationships I was in that I thought I was ruining, but I wasn't, and my girlfriend at the time would be like, listen, everything's fine, but in my head I'm like, oh, this is going terrible. It's like, no, just listen to your partner, it's like listening to the audience will let you know when things are going well and they're not going well. And yeah, just networking is key. Like I still have problems like when I go to a comedy show, I'll do my set and then I want to leave right away. But what you should do is you should do your set and then talk to the other comedians. Talk to people that run the comedy club, talk to people that work at the comedy club, you know, just because then you'll be fresh in their mind when they have another show open up, you know. Like some of the best comedians are the ones that are hilarious on stage and also like super social, super friendly off stage. You know, like being friendly and social off stage is going to help you out almost more than being funny with a microphone. You know, you can get more opportunities by just being nice to people when you're not doing comedy than when you're up there on the stage.
Yeah, it's like you're up there on stage and you're telling a story, but talking to people after, it's like you're inviting them into your story.
Yeah,
and creating a story for them as well. So
yeah, you don't want to be like super social and friendly on stage. Then when you get off stage, people are like, that guy's kind of weird and quiet, and like, no, you want to be the person you are off stage, because that's going to help you out so much more, like networking wise. Like people can give you more opportunities if they know who you are and they like talking to you.
So you're also a playwright as well now, huh?
Yes. I'm just trying to do everything.
I read that review of your 50th and 4th play, and that sounded cool. It sounded like that was definitely an avenue for you to process some of the stuff that or some of the experiences you've gone through in New York City.
Oh, for sure. It was a great experience. It was a great learning experience. I had a great time working with the actors and just rewriting the script. And then I had a bit of a falling out with the director because there's a lack of communication there on my end. So it was a learning experience about how to be a team player, because as a stand-up comedian, you're kind of just working by yourself all the time. But when you're writing a play, you got to learn how to communicate with everyone who's working on the play with you. And I didn't do a good job with that, like communicating with the director. So we were friends before, and then we got into a big fight. And now we're not friends anymore, but we created like a great play together, and you know. That sucks, but it was a learning experience. And now I'm working on a new play and like taking the lessons I learned from the old one into the new one and just trying to be a better team player.
Cool.
You know, and it's a great another outlet. You know, like the great thing is like when I get burnt out from doing too much stand up, I can be like, you know what, I can write plays too. So if stand up isn't as fun for me in the moment, like at this point, I can just go and write a new show and then put that on stage and hopefully get an audience from that, and that audience will want to come see me do comedy at some point. You know, it's all about building that audience somehow.
That sounds like a really good creative process, just having multiple avenues. So when you get burnt out, you can go on to something else.
Yeah, and it's so much less pressure too. Like if you're writing a play, you don't have to be funny that night. You know, you're hopefully the punchlines are going to hit like 6 months to a year from now when the show's actually going up. Like stand up is like, you gotta be funny right now, you know, which is it's good and bad. Like I can think of a joke right now and go tell it on stage tonight, and I can find out if it's funny or not. So that's a lot of pressure, a lot of anxiety. But like with playwriting, like you're on your own schedule almost until once you have the deadline of like when the show's going up, then you gotta like start focusing more and more on it. But like right now, I'm kind of working on a new show, and I'm pretty relaxed because there's no pressure, there's no deadline. I can do whatever I want, and I like that.
I imagine as a comedian, it's probably a lot of fun to write a comedic play too, because that gives you the experience to write a joke, have somebody else deliver it, and then you can critique their delivery and be like, no, that's not exactly what I was going.
Yeah,
I'd imagine that's really good for you, and like it's probably a lot of fun just to be able to sit back and kind of make it happen rather than get it to happen.
Yeah, and I'm still working on my stand up at the same time. Like the new play I'm working on is a one man show, and it's going to be more like storytelling stand up-y. So I can use my skill of like just all my hours of being on stage is going to make me a good director for like the solo show. And I can work on someone else performing while not getting frustrated with my own performance. So it's a good way to kind of relax. And I'm still doing comedy by writing and like directing, but I'm not putting that pressure on myself to just like perform every night.
So it's a one-man show, and it's an actor. It's not you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm working on the show with Emil Fazora. He was the lead actor in my first play. So he just like blew me out of the water when I saw his performance. Like we did 50th and 4th for a festival last year, and he was just phenomenal. Like everyone in the cast was phenomenal, but like working with Emil was great. And I started working on this new show that like I'm writing specifically for him, for his voice, and I'm really excited about it.
I'd always assumed that one man shows were written by the person they're performed by, but
that's what I want to do. I want to like I want people to come see the show, and I want them to like think about. I want the show to like it's a one man show, but I want them to go and like think that the guy on stage is actually being honest and telling because I just started working on this, so I'm having a hard time explaining it. But I want people to think that he's being real and like bearing his soul to him. I don't want them to think of him as an actor. I want them to walk in and think this is like a storytelling show, because it is like a one man show is usually like written and directed and produced by like or like a one man show is usually written and performed by the performer. You know, like you said. But I want it to be kind of trippy and like them not know like what's real and what's not real. Because I'm so used to going on stage and like bearing my soul to the audience that now I want to kind of like reverse it and write a piece of fiction.
I heard a little bit of New York City in the background there, some sirens going.
Oh, you heard the police car? Yeah. That's it, man. At all hours of the day.
So what's the preview for this play you're working on right now?
So the preview is this actually connects in really well to what we're talking about. The one man show, the solo show, is based on when I was in therapy. My therapist was telling me I was having trouble identifying my emotions. I used to only be able to identify my thoughts. You know, like I'd have all these thoughts every single day, like full, like you know, every hour I have like all these different thoughts. Like this person hates me, this person doesn't like me, my relationship's falling apart, but I could never identify the feelings behind that thought. So one day my therapist walked in and she gave me this printout of a wheel of emotions. So it was this wheel that had like every different kind of emotion you can experience. and she like wanted me to carry that wheel around with me, and like whenever I had a thought, pull out the wheel and like try to identify that thought with an emotion. And it was a great exercise because I started to like be able to name my emotions instead of just like rambling on about my thoughts. I could say, instead of being like, I think this person hates me, I could be like, I'm feeling kind of sad and angry right now. But I only was able to do that by like having this piece of paper in front of me that had like all the different emotions listed out. So the new show I'm working on is like a storytelling show where this character is going to tell stories from his life that revolve around each emotion on the wheel. So it's going to be this weird like storytelling show that revolves around identifying emotions.
Whoa. That's wow.
And he's gonna be handing out copies of the wheels to every audience member that walks in. So we're gonna have printouts of them, and he's gonna hand them out, and like it's gonna be great. I'm really excited about this.
Okay, so I just gotta say, like that sounds like a fantastic project and like something that's much needed, But I think you're being too humble. Like earlier on in our conversation, I'm kind of trying to press you and say, like, dude, like you're doing therapeutic stuff through your comedy, and then you're talking about this new show you're writing, and I'm like, that's like therapy for the audience,
Yeah.
And like, kind of,
yeah.
especially for guys, putting that on display. Dude, I'm just gonna riff with you a little bit here and have some fun with it. But so in my life, like I've always been such an emotional person, and what I've found in my life lately, I've been married to my wife for about 5 years. We got a beautiful 2-year-old daughter. But
congratulations!
It's hard, and I think I fall on the different end of the like masculine emotional spectrum because I just get so emotional. So emotional so that I'll just like shut down. You know what I mean? You probably don't know what I mean, but I'll get so emotional that I totally just shut down and I'm like, there's too many emotions to experience. So I'll just cut into this logic mode. So there just comes a point in when me and my wife fight and like, I'm hurting, where I'm just like, I can't hurt that much. I'm shutting down, so it's like, I kind of go into this rational mode where I can tell like the steps that need to occur, like for me to get back into an emotional state and like a vulnerable state.
For sure.
Anyways, I guess I'll just throw totally that out there to be vulnerable.
Yeah. I've just, dude, I can totally relate to that. Like, I'm just now getting to the point where I'm comfortable expressing my emotions in front of other people. Like when I was a kid, I was going through all these problems at home, and I would never express them in public. Like every time I would go to school, I'd be very, very quiet. I just shut down emotionally when I was at school or like with my friends because like I didn't want them to know about what I was going through. And like when I was growing up, I was taught that like you don't really express your emotions outside of the house. You kind of keep that inside. And that did a lot of damage to me because I was so uncomfortable like being honest. And like why I started to love stand-up comedy because that's the most emotional I was. Like that's the most emotion I would experience and like let out my true feelings. But I didn't know how to do that in a relationship until like last year. Like I'm 29 years old, and I just now started to realize how to like be vulnerable around people that I love or that love me. For the longest time, I was just like I would shut down and try to be like that stoic, like masculine, like nothing bothers me kind of guy. But that I was being dishonest, And it's just now that I'm starting to be more comfortable like expressing my emotions. And I don't like it. I don't like it when I start to cry around someone else or I get angry. But I think that's healthy. You can't hold it in,
dude. Yeah, it's just like I have these moments, like you're talking about. Like it's healthy to cry. There's been a few moments in the last few weeks because I love being connected and like integrated to myself. And there's been these moments where I've been in like a group of people or something, like maybe watching something, it's like, dude, I just need to like cry about that. But it's like I hold it in because I don't want to look silly. I'm like, man, I can't be crying at like this, this movie or whatever. But then I don't process that, and I just like hold it in, and it kills me for like the next 3 months. I'm like, dude, you could have just done that and like been done with it. But why didn't you?
Yeah, that's my biggest one of my biggest issues is not dealing with a problem right away. You know, like letting it fester in my head and just like overthinking it is like. But if it could have been a simple solution, but now it's like 4 months later and you're still thinking about it. Like I'm trying to get better with just dealing with issues and not letting them build up over time. Because it's always worse. It's always worse when you don't deal with it right away.
When you're not present to yourself, you can't be present to others. That's important
Yeah.
in your line of work.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. Yeah, you gotta be present. You gotta be present. You gotta be honest, and you feel better when you are. Yeah.
Well, thanks for going there. I really like going to that deep level and talking,
Yeah, of course.
Let me see here. I got a couple notes. Just figure out where I want to go next here. Sorry, when I get into that deep like space, I kind of struggle to get back to like my rational notes and whatnot. Like little bit of therapy
Get it,
going
man.
on in my head
Oh,
there.
dude, it's like it's like when you're on stage and you start riffing and you're being in the moment, and then like you kind of don't want to go back into the prepared stuff. That's the you enjoy, the being present is like the best part of it.
Oh,
But yeah.
Little story about that. I went to the TED Talks in Denver recently, and there was like somebody talking on stage about something. And I just appreciated her so much because she did that on stage. She just said that. She kind of forgot what she was going to say. Yeah. And she's like, I was just like being too present to the emotion. Like,
oh, people love that.
Give me
the
a minute,
audience
and then everybody clapped, and I was like, this is fantastic. It's like the human thing going on stage, and that's wonderful. But you've had experiences like that yourself?
Oh, of course, man. Like every night, like when I did a show last night, I had a 12 a.m. spot at Broadway Comedy Club, and I love doing those spots. Those are like my favorite spots to do in the city, like 12 a.m. Wednesday night or Thursday morning. You get there, there's like maybe like 15, 20 people in the audience, and that's when you can honestly just riff and have fun and be in the moment because there's no pressure, Like they didn't go there to see you. They just want to see a comedy show. It's late at night. You're probably going up like fifth or sixth on the lineup. Why not just have fun and mess around, And if you end up telling a few of your jokes, that's great. But you're gonna have more fun just being present and making them laugh in the moment. Like last night, I wore my jacket on stage, and I was just riffing about like how it was warm in the room, and I'm like, should I take my jacket off? Should I leave it on? And I just got them like, we all knew it was warm in there, so like that was a good starting point. And then when I was talking about that, I just ended up like talking about being in a relationship and talking about how that's going, and then like asking the audience if they're in a relationship, and none of it was prepared. It was just fun and freestyling, and it went really well. And then like last night I did a 8 o'clock show, or like a 10 o'clock spot on an 8 o'clock show, and I did a midnight spot. And the first show, I was more working on my material and not in the moment, and it wasn't that fun. And then I went and did that 12 a.m. spot, and I was loose and present, and like that was so much more fun than the prepared one, Like that's every night. Like I can do multiple shows a night, and you can experience so many different emotions just from doing stand up like 2 or 3 times a night. Because if it goes well, you're in a great mood. If it doesn't go well, you're in a bad mood, and it's just. And then you go to the next show, and the next show is great. So then you're back to like being happy again. It's a lot.
That's cool. That's cool. Riding the wave.
Riding the wave, man. It's just like every single night you're feeling all these different emotions.
No, you're tapping into something so valuable, I feel like, right there. Just talking about being able to have fun from stage instead of doing your rehearsed material. Because I've experienced that as a spectator when I've gone to like concerts just here in Denver. It's like I hate going to concerts of bands that I know because it's like I've always thought it was because I have expectations of them and like they don't meet them, which is probably true on some level, But also, I think they tend to do the scripted stuff more often, just because they're doing it so many times a week.
Oh, they're playing the hits. Yeah. Have you've been to Red Rocks, right?
Once, twice.
Oh, dude. I went to I was in Denver for some shows a couple months ago, and like the best part, the shows were fine, but like the best part of the trip was going to Red Rocks. Like that was just incredible. Like I wasn't familiar with the bands I saw, but like just being in that venue was like just so fun and relaxing, and it's just beautiful there.
Oh yeah, that's a fantastic venue.
Yeah, I would go back to Denver just to go to Red Rocks. Like, that place was so cool.
You know, man, I'm just kind of thinking about it from a different perspective now. It's like, even being in that environment, like coming from New York City, I would imagine that's like, that's gonna flavor the experience so much. Like, even if the music sucks, it's like you're still sitting right there when like you're used to Brooklyn, you know? It's like,
yeah, and like when you're lining up to go into Red Rocks, like the sun was setting, and it was just like, oh my god, it was a beautiful experience. It was so nice, and like you kind of like I went with my buddy, and we became friends with everyone that was like staying around us, because like it is such a welcoming, peaceful environment that like you just want to become friends with everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody wants to become friends with you because of the marijuana laws, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean that helps. That definitely helps.
So I had a what would I call this? Like the inverse of your experience, maybe, because I went to New York once, and that was like 5 years ago in November. But you know, coming from Colorado, all those big buildings around, like I just started to feel oppressed by it. I'm like, dude, you know, where's like the nature? And
yep.
I finally got a moment to break away by myself, and I went and what's the big river there, like off Manhattan?
Hudson?
Hudson, yeah. So I went to a little park off the Hudson, and man, I just like sat there. I was like, oh, space.
Oh yeah.
Water, trees. Oh gosh.
You got to find that, especially in New York. Like I used to work at this private equity firm, you know, and I would work in the meatpacking industry. You're just surrounded by people all the time. And I would walk to Washington Square Park. It's not even a real park. It's just all concrete, but it's just benches and like space. And I would do that like every day. I would just like, I get out of work at 6, and I just go to the park from like 6 to 7:30 or 6 to 7, and just relax for like a half hour and just like kind of just zone out, you know. Or you go to Central Park. You gotta find a park to just hang out in. Like I'm near Prospect Park now in Brooklyn, and it's just like when the weather's nice, you gotta go. Like you just need that for your mental health. It's tough in the wintertime because you gotta be inside, and like you can't really hang out and find that space. But like spring and summer and fall, like I like to spend at least like 20 minutes to a half hour, like just sitting in the park every day, just to get my mind right, you know, relaxation.
Awesome. You're speaking to my deep human side right now.
You need it, yeah. You need it.
That's something I haven't gotten much since the first of the year, because our my daughter's daycare ended, so I've been like sole caregiver during the daytime. That's probably not the best word for it for your kid, caregiver. It's the best one I can come up with right now.
Hey man, it works, yeah.
But yeah, sole care like during the daytime, and you know, working at nighttime, and then getting up early to do all this like podcast stuff. And it's like, man, I need a day to just like go and just like sit in nature, you know, and be a part of it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm enjoying your description. I'm just like, oh man, I want to go be alone and like just sit in the park. Like, yeah, I'd be down for that. So I'll bring
gotta find that time, man.
I'll bring it back to your comedy here. In your Help Wanted 2016 special, I'm really curious, like the production on that. I just first want to say that was a great piece. You know, it wasn't like high budget or anything, but I love it when I see things like that are low budget, and they still speak to me in some way, because it's like, oh, that's doing something special. Like I got to figure out what that is, you know, because it's not the production quality that's drawing me in, but there's something like intrinsically special about it. Like when I think about experiences like this, I just think about years ago. I was watching YouTube videos, but I ran into this video of this probably like 8-9-year-old kid that was playing an out-of-tune guitar. But there was something so special about it, like something so like just real about it. And I was just like, man, I want to hear more of this music, you know, because there's an event going on, like not just something being performed, you know. But no, what I wanted to say about that was it was a great piece of work. I really enjoyed it. The only thing I was a little confused about was there's these cut scenes of you in the middle of it. and you're like heckling yourself. So I'm like, what's behind that? I have my suspicions, but I'd like to hear you say like, what's in that for you?
Yeah, so for Help Wanted, I rented out a theater for 15 nights. It's the Understand Works Theater in the East Village, and I spent all this money to rent out the place, and I was going to record a comedy album, and I wasn't going to film any of the shows until a friend of mine said, if you're spending all this money, you need to film at least one show. So I found someone to set up a camera in the back, and they recorded one, like my third to last show, and it went well. And I had audio from all the other shows, so I just edited together that video with audio from the other shows. And then like I was watching it, and I'm like, because I'm my biggest critic. I'm not a huge fan of like a lot of my material. So I decided to call my friend Reggie Williams, who's a filmmaker, and I asked him to just like meet me at the theater, and we're gonna film some like sketches I can put in between the stand-up, because like I wanted to put out an hour show, but I don't think the hour of just stand-up was good enough to put out. So I wanted to put something more interesting in there. So I edited together, like, I think, in the movie, I go on a date with someone. I meet at, like, a pizza place, and then, like, I'm heckling myself at the theater because, like, I'm like, I don't want to put this out there because I don't think it's a good just standalone hour of comedy. So I wanted to cut together different segments and pieces to make it more of a good experience for whoever's watching. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would have been good as just like a straight hour, but I think like cutting in those the video of me heckling myself and like going on a date, I think that just kept it more interesting and kept people wanting to watch it for longer. You know.
That's a good point.
I did the same thing with the something new thing. Is I could have just put out an hour of me doing comedy in the London conference room, but I think it's more entertaining if I just chop it up and put out something like unique and original as opposed to just like the 1 hour of me sitting in the conference room. I think people might get a little bored just watching that. So I want to keep their attention going the whole time.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking, was that those cut scenes were just like you being your own worst critic.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm like, yeah.
This is interesting because that's like another aspect of the storytelling that I'm talking about, like you doing, kind of that more authentic side of being an honest storyteller.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like last night at that 12 a.m. spot, I just went up and I was talking about like, I'm not a big fan of my comedy right now, so I want to do something different, because you get a little frustrated. You do the same, and when you're doing the same jokes every night or like working on the same material, even if you kind of like switch it up and you be spontaneous in the moment, you still kind of get annoyed that you have to go back to those jokes. Like you can only tell a joke so many times that you're just like, I don't kind of like this anymore. So trying to find a way to keep it fun for you.
Okay. Just one last fun question here for you. So you have this bit about couch surfing and not reading the fine print.
Yeah.
That's a hilarious story.
I was like, now I have to read everything. I got to read it multiple times because I did not know the situation I was walking into. But but that's like the great thing about comedy is like it got me out of that uncomfortable situation. Like we ended up just like laughing about it, kind of. Like he was still pretty serious about the couch surfing experience. I ended up sleeping on someone's couch who's a nudist, and I didn't know they were nudists. But we ended up I used comedy to kind of get out of that weird situation. But it was weird, but I also kind of embraced it because I wanted to like talk about. I knew I wanted to talk about it on stage, so I wanted to like just see how far I could take it without becoming super uncomfortable. So I think I made the most out of the situation.
Yeah, no, that was hilarious. And if you want to hear the full story, that's like on your.
Yes, on something new.
Something new.
On YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious. I had you sign a release form before doing this podcast. Did that experience, couch surfing, make you more vigilant about reading the fine print?
Oh no! I thought I did, dude. That's the thing is like when I was doing the couch surfing, is I thought I read everything, and it turns out I didn't. So I don't know. I think I read the fine print on this. I don't know.
No, there's no fine print you need to worry about.
Oh my god, I was freaked out.
I guess I got one last question I'll go for here. Hecklers. How do you deal with the hecklers? Because you're trying to do something a little more authentic, a little more integrated, and it seems like hecklers would be very hard to deal with. What's your strategy
You
in your
can't
head?
really have a strategy. You got to go in. It's a case by case situation. If the heckler sometimes you get heckled because they think they're helping you, and that's always like I'd rather someone just be drunk and like obnoxious, because then I don't feel bad just like flipping out on them. Like sometimes you gotta get angry and like still try to find a way to make it funny. But when they're heckling you because they think they're helping you, that just becomes uncomfortable because they don't really understand what you're doing. So if I'm talking about like going to therapy or like mental health and I get heckled, then I'll just try to like do crowd work with the heckler. Like if I'm talking about going to therapy and someone like someone's like I don't know, they say something stupid to me, I'll be like, so have you gone to therapy? And then if they're like, oh no, I haven't, I'm like, well, it sounds like you should go to therapy. Like, just turn it on them. And then like, because like a heckler makes the rest of the audience uncomfortable. So if you kind of make the heckler uncomfortable, then it gets the rest of the audience back on board. And then you're back to being like a group. It's all about getting the audience back to like one place, one time, like everyone's in the moment. And like when someone heckles you, you get out of the moment. So how do you like get back to being present and like everyone having a good time and being on the same page? So I try to answer a heckler with something I'm talking about. Like keep my response related to the material I'm currently talking about, so I don't kind of lose control of the whole show.
Dude, that's cool.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So if I'm on a subject and I get heckled, I try to respond to the heckler within the subject I'm still covering, so I don't lose my train of thought, I think.
Whoa. Man, I could talk about what you just said for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But no, it's just like that's the biggest reason why we have trouble being like authentic, because there's always like one judgmental person that says something. And everybody just kind of, I recently read about this concept of emotional contagion, where it's like as soon as like this emotional state gets introduced, everybody else kind of follows it and conforms like to that emotional state, and you're able to reroute that. So it's like somebody's negative and you can say, nope, we're not going to stay there.
Yeah, you're in control. You have
That's
the microphone.
cool.
So you just want to make sure you don't lose control of the show. That's the key. Like however you deal with a heckler, you just want to make sure that like when that's done, when you dealt with the heckler, you want to make sure that the show is still okay. Like you don't want to get it so ridiculous where you can't get the whole audience back on board. You don't want one heckler to turn into like the whole audience not having a good time. It's like it's kind of like you're conducting the orchestra. You want to have every part needs to do its job.
So my original intent behind that question was, how do you deal with it personally? But it sounds like that's the way you deal with it on stage is a bit of how you deal with it personally. Like not,
it's a case by case situation. You never really know how you're gonna deal with it. Yeah.
Not letting that fester like in your head until like after the show, but you kind of process it from the stage and deal with it then.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's
awesome.
It can go off the rails pretty quickly. You just want to keep everything going as smoothly as possible.
Awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation, Mike, and thanks so much for taking the time. It's been great, very eye-opening, and I always enjoy it anytime my perception gets shifted, and you've shifted my perception of comedy and comedians today, so thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time. Thank you.
Great. Well, how about that guy Mike, huh? Isn't he great? I told you were going to love him. I just love this idea for the one-man show he's putting together. That just sounds like it's going to be so impactful for those that see it. If you're in New York City, make sure to check him out. But if not, you can connect with him and his work on his website, mikelemme.com, and on Instagram at Mike Lemme, and then on Facebook at Lemme NYC. And links to those are available in the show notes of this podcast. And also available in the show notes are the various ways you can connect with the show here at The Grounded Presence. So make sure to find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Grounded Presence. I love reading messages from you, and it inspires me to keep doing what I'm doing here. And that email address is thegroundedpresence@gmail.com. Well, I will see you right back here in just 2 weeks' time, and make sure to tune in. This is an episode that you are not going to want to miss. and one that I am so excited to share with you. But until then, just keep fighting the good fight out there and do whatever you can to stay grounded amidst the daily grind.